Hi there, welcome to Cocktail Mode, the podcast where me, Andy, and my co-host Dave pick a retro game to talk about and then try and pair it with a cocktail. Today's is a delayed UFO XCom episode that we had some technical issues with. That's all been resolved now, so I hope you enjoy.
What is your experience of UFO Enemy Unknown?
I noticed that you're very, very specifically saying UFO Enemy Unknown and not XCOM.
It very much pisses me off that it's been retconned by the internet, only because that's the American version.
Yes.
A game developed and released in England by an English company should not be known by its American name.
It's a fair point, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a petty thing, I know, but it does bother me. It genuinely bothers me that something is released as something and then gets changed somewhere else and that becomes the accepted name.
Yeah.
It shouldn't bother me, but it does.
Well, you know, things are allowed to bother you. I mean, yes, it's the same thing as the Genesis, isn't it? I don't like when people call the Genesis. It's not the Genesis, it's the fucking Mega Drive.
Yeah.
But hey-ho, it's not the end of the world, is it? Worse things happen at sea and all that nonsense.
Interestingly, though, we don't call it the Famicom, but that's the original name.
That's true. Hey-ho.
But also, I don't care.
Yeah, no one...
don't give a shit about the NES at all.
No one said we weren't massive hypocrites, did they?
No, exactly.
We just have to own it.
Yeah.
I can't remember who and I can't remember where, but I remember seeing UFO and being fascinated by it, by the element of it that wouldn't normally intrigue me about games, the parts where it was that you could capture the corpses and then you experiment on them and then you would learn stuff and all that. That's the sort of stuff that normally wouldn't interest me for a second in a game, but it just, I quite liked it. I think the look of it had something to do with that, the whole 50s B movie thing, because I've always loved that. That's been a sort of a style and a sort of a vibe that I've always really liked, and I think that had a fair bit to do with it. So yeah, but I think if I played it then, it was only very, very briefly.
Yeah.
I think that was either I saw it at somebody's house and they showed me a bit of it, but that's my first experience of it.
Okay. Because my sum total experience of UFO Enemy Unknown is about 5 minutes when I downloaded it on GOG the other day. Sorry, GOG. It's called GOG, isn't it?
GOG, yes, apparently. I got it the other day and I was fortunate enough, I don't know why, I don't know how, but to learn that you needed to download something called Open XCom.
Oh, okay.
Which is basically an open source mod, but very lightweight mod, doing as little as possible to the game to make it as playable to, you know, people who have a modern computer in terms of the technology. It allows you to play at a proper 1080p resolution without any compromises. And it's like the controls you can use. Because I don't play a lot of PC games. I don't have a decent mouse and keyboard. So I was playing on my shitty Logitech keyboard with a touchpad next to it. And you can pinch zoom and all this. And this is all stuff that this mod has brought in, and it works really well. It makes the game really sort of playable and a little bit more intuitive because you know, game controls have evolved a lot since XCOM first came out, and it just puts all those evolutions in without getting in the way, without changing anything else. It's really quite clever and very, what's the word I'm looking for? Sensitive, I think, to the original.
Unobtrusive.
Yes, that's a great word. So fair play to them. So I've played a lot of it over the last couple of years. I got completely hooked on it immediately.
Oh, good.
Like immediately nailed to it, because, as I say, it just takes me back. It plays certainly in the tactical bits, like all those old games I played, and all the other turn-based games that I've played over the years, like Advance Wars, other turn-based stuff that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just, I just got completely hooked on it, and you know, even though for a good long while I completely fucking sucked at it.
You do, don't you? Yeah. You can't be good at these games quickly at all.
Such simple things that sort of when you learn, you just go, no, I don't have to use every single one of my moves, every single character, every single time. That's stupid. Yeah. Just hide behind that thing and wait it out. Yeah. And it's just...
I can have 5 people aiming guns with reserved points to shoot anyone that comes out of that one door.
Yeah. And
then they come from somewhere else.
But yeah, I've absolutely loved it. I've got a game saved at the minute where I'm 6 or 7 missions in, which is the best I've done by a long shot already. Got some good research going on. And I've absolutely loved it. And it's one of those games that I think I'll continue playing on.
Have you ever played Terror from the Deep?
I haven't played Terror from the Deep.
Have you ever played Apocalypse?
Nope.
Interceptor.
Nope.
Anything since UFO Enemy Unknown.
No.
So why did you pick this? Was it so you could talk about Rebel Star and Laser Squad?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I did pick this because of that. Because that is why. But what it's done is it allowed me to go back and properly play UFO. And properly understand why it is so loved.
Yeah.
I mean, it is regularly touted as one of the best PC games ever made.
Whenever anyone says XCOM, I always think of Terror from the Deep. I had it on the PlayStation.
Yeah, I have it on the PlayStation, but I've not played it. I saw it. I forget where I picked it up. But I just saw it in the shop and grabbed it just because it was there and I hadn't played it.
It's good. It is brilliant. I loved it when I first had it, but it gets to a point later in the game where the levels are huge and there's like 40, 50 enemies in there. So each alien turn just sits there for like 5-10 minutes.
Christ. Hidden movement.
As soon as you can take your go, you save it in case it crashes. And it becomes unplayable after a while. I only ever finished it on Steam about 4 years ago because the end just becomes unplayable.
So tell me about Terror from the Deep, because I've not played it at all.
Terror from the Deep is atmospheric as fuck. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's really, really good because it's underwater. It's kind of weird and alien already anyway. It mixes underwater stuff from when you've shot things down, when you go and investigate things. And then they have on land what they call terror sites.
Okay.
And one of those is fantastic. It's a cruise ship.
Okay.
So that's quite an odd setting for a tactical thing. So you're going around a ship, opening doors and looking into ballrooms and things. But there's also docks. There'll be cities.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. It goes all over the place. And then you research everything up to a point and you start to get the drop on the aliens in so much as you start to go and invade their colonies. And it builds to a crescendo of blowing up a big thing. But it starts, the initial intro video starts at the very, very end of XCOM. Sorry, UFO. Starts on Mars. And as you blow up the last thing in the original game, basically a laser signal gets sent to somewhere in the oceans that activates these things that have always been there.
Yes.
So it's like the alien invasion had already happened. They've just been laying dormant all this time. But the range of enemies on offer are fantastic. You got your standard like little green guys, but then everything else kind of has a nautical theme. So you get giant lobster creatures, lobster men. There's one, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. You know, the really old-timey diving suits.
Yes.
Like all brass.
Yeah. With
the faceplate and that. There's basically those with like an animated thing inside it that moves it around. It's really creepy. They're really, really good.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did it in UFO, but your bases can get invaded as well.
I haven't got that far, I can imagine.
Yeah. So whatever layout you've made your base to, you then have to play a level on that.
Well, you know, I think I have heard about that happening on UFO.
That's really, really clever. I've always thought it's one of the best things I've ever seen.
That is very cool.
Because you could intentionally build your base in such a way that you've got like a long corridor that they have to come down to get.
I think I did read about that. And I think that is in UFO. Because apparently UFO and Terror from the Deep, well, it's not apparently, definitely Gollop wasn't directly involved in Terror from the Deep. He went off and was making Apocalypse, whilst the people from Microprose licensed his engine and made Terror from the Deep. So yeah, and apparently the levels are a lot longer and it makes it a lot harder.
Yes.
I mean, like it could be much fucking harder.
I say yes. I don't know.
Because you've not played.
I had never really played the original. But yeah, the interface is exactly the same. The way it plays, the design of everything is virtually the same. It's got some brilliant research options. If I'm right, you end the original game with like laser and plasma technology.
Yeah.
That's where you start in Terror from the Deep.
Oh, cool.
You start with that technology from the first game. But because it's underwater, all the aliens are using sonic weapons.
Oh, cool.
So you have like this, you know, sonic pistol, sonic rifle, sonic cannon, and it's the projectiles based on that. But it's really, really good. There's so much you can do with it. Yeah, I
would definitely give it a look. I'm a little bit perturbed by the talk of how difficult it is, considering how difficult I found UFO. Playing on beginner as well. I will say without a hint of pride that I'm playing on beginner. And
it's kind of like me. I'm like several thousand hours into the Civilization franchise.
Yeah.
And I still play that on a much lower setting than I should. Just because it's not enjoyable.
Oh, exactly.
If you're not enjoying it, why are you playing it?
I always like to know what level the game was designed at.
Mm.
I like to know that, and that's usually where I like to play my games, or certainly the first time. That's normally where I like to play my games. But no, if this how I'm playing UFO is beginner, I don't want to play on normal. Thanks very much. I am not going to get very far at all. I'm too impatient, I think, to play it that way. I certainly, I say, when I first started playing it, I had to get my head back in the game of not just, I've got 25 moves, I should use every single one of them.
But that's the great lie. You've got 25 action points, but it takes 2 points to turn.
Yes.
4 points to move. 2 points to crouch. That's one of the things I always loved is when you get to the end of a turn sequence for a character and they're 1 point shy of getting a shot off. So you found an alien, you've finally managed to find one without somebody dying. You can get a shot off for the first time ever, short on action points because you didn't know about the reserving thing.
Yeah, I've never seen that before, and I know it's a bit strange, really, I suppose, since UFO is kind of the genesis of all these things, and I've not seen it in anything since, and it's such a brilliant mechanic.
What it's evolved into is commonly referred to as Overwatch.
Yes.
Which is just one of the best things you can do in a lot of these sorts of games.
Yeah.
Set your squad up in just the right way so that when they come through that door, there's 4 or 5 rifles that are just going to go off in your face.
When you're in your sort of exploration phase of UFO and you're just sort of moving around, if you've clicked that save enough money for an auto shot, you know that if you stumble across something, you're going to be able to shoot at it. You don't have to wait.
You'll probably miss, but you'll get a shot off. One of the greatest memes revolving around XCom is the whole 97% chance to hit thing, and then you fucking miss. You're an elite sniper. I personally have controlled you in a mission, and you've killed hundreds of aliens. He's 4 feet away. How can you miss?
On Rebel Star 2, it goes into a really simple view, and the enemy is represented by a circle, and you point your target at it. And sometimes they're in either an exact diagonal or an exact straight line away from you. And so I would aim at the farthest point in the map that I could in a direct line through the thing I was shooting at to try and... Because you think about the logic of that, the variation is going to be on that point, and the variation from that point at the point where I'm trying to aim at is a lot less.
Did it actually work?
I don't know.
But that's the sort of thing you could go back and test now. You could test that theory. Use a save state.
Yeah.
Get yourself into that position. Take a snapshot. Try it one way. Try it another way. Just see if it works.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna test that theory.
One of the things in these sorts of games is like cones of vision and things like that, and like variance in aiming and everything. Will it go a tiny bit to the right, tiny bit to the left, up or down, or whatever? And that's one of the things that makes XCOM tense.
Yeah.
It's that idea of that alien is right next to my guy. This guy who's going to shoot it might miss and kill my guy.
Yeah.
Maria Velasquez might take one in the back of the head. One of the things I remember from XCOM Terror from the Deep is some of the names always come out.
Okay.
Like they're usually just random names, but for some reason Maria Velasquez is the one I remember the most. Terror from the Deep did a thing with the grenades where you could effectively cook them.
Yeah.
So you could hold on to them for a round and then throw it. If the person holding the grenade that's been enabled gets shot, they drop it. And if they're 1 square out of the fucking landing craft and everyone else is inside, they all die.
That hasn't happened to me. I can imagine that is in UFO as well.
Yeah.
Because I know there is some stuff going on.
If you play games like this long enough, you'll collect the best collection of stories of how you killed your entire team.
I discovered accidentally, I think as everybody has, when they first started playing these games, that you can throw your weapon because they've done it accidentally. You go to press fire and you click throw, and then it's like, oh fuck. And then you realise later in the game when someone has panicked and dropped their weapon that you can throw them a new one, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that. Absolutely brilliant. Fantastic stuff.
One of the great things I always liked in these games is as long as you've researched the weapons that the enemies have got, you can just replenish your ammo by picking up their weapons.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was fantastic. So many games never did anything like that.
No, absolutely not. But UFO, the first weapons you really research your laser weapons, and they never need reloading, which is, incentive enough, isn't it?
Well, that's one of the things with Terror from the Deep, because it's all underwater. You don't have standard guns. You don't have standard laser weapons. It's all like harpoon guns, and like
so cool.
Jet darts and things like that. But then you play the above ground missions as well.
Okay.
So you're like, oh, hang on a second, how the fuck does a harpoon work? Oh, it doesn't. I need a different gun. So you've walked into one of these above ground missions with no weapons, effectively.
One of the things that took me a while to figure out about playing UFO was that if you failed a mission, then all your weapons, the ship, the thing, everything goes.
Yeah. You can get people back on and then quit the mission.
Yeah.
But you'll have lost everything that's out in the field.
Yeah, which is, again, from somebody who plays the sort of games I do, I'm just like, what? I've got to, what? Where is my spaceship? I had a spaceship. Where's it gone?
They do sit so separately to everything else you play. I still can't really get over it.
Yeah, it is bizarre. I just love them. And again, I think very, very particularly XCom is, or UFO, whichever you prefer, is very, very close to being crossing the line because of the geoscape part, which is very strategy gamey. Yeah, which I don't normally like. So that's particularly surprising because the Rebel Stars are just turn based and Laser Squad is just turn based. Yeah, the squad games really
more simple.
Yeah, but that strategy layer, that's the thing that I really shouldn't like. And yet, I'm sat here playing 4-hour stints of UFO. They're so good. And that thing, I got to the end of a mission with 3 people, started with 8, got to the end with 3, and it still feels good.
That's not bad. That's acceptable losses.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things where you're just, and I couldn't find the last fucker either as well. But I was, I was like converging on this one corner of the map, and it just felt really good. Do you know what I mean? Like properly for, as I say, considering it's turn-based and it's just converging from 3 different locations on this one corner of the map, and then you make a move and they appear, and you're just like, right, you're fucking mine, sunshine. This is done.
Yeah. Steve over there has been kneeling down with his rifle ready. For 6 turns in a row, he's just pass. I
think we've talked in the past before about cannon fodder, and how cannon fodder for me was the first time in a game where I ever felt the loss of a character. For me, I don't feel anything for those guys.
Really?
Not a thing. And I think it's because they just die so quickly. You don't get a chance to form a bond with them.
They're red shirts, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You mentioned before that you played the Laser Squad game on the Spectrum.
Yes.
That was one of Julian Gollop's first efforts. What was that like?
Yes, well, I mentioned Laser Squad. I absolutely did, because I think the reason I mentioned it, I just bought it for the Amiga. But I haven't actually played Laser Squad. It's a bit of a gap in my classic Gollop gaming. From back in the days of the Spectrum, when you used to get games on the front of magazines, you used to get the cassette and it had 7 games in it and 6 of them were absolute shite.
Yeah.
I got a game called Chaos, which is a very simple turn-based strategy game, one of Julian Gollop's very earliest. And I absolutely loved it. I used to play it over and over again. It was different every time you played it, real sort of mixed bag. You never had a clue what you were going to get. Literally, you started every game differently. And that was fantastic. And then I think as a budget release or on the front of the magazine, I got Rebel Star 2, which is the game that started the whole XCom thing for, I think, both me and Julian Gollop. There was Rebel Star before it. Rebel Star Raiders was the first game, but that was 2-player only.
Mm-hmm. Do you know why it was 2-player only?
I don't know, because he didn't know how to program AI.
Exactly that.
Yeah, he was 13 or something like that when he was an absolute
he was really, really young when he started making these.
Yeah.
Yeah, he programmed the AI for Rebel Star 2, basically because the publishers said 2 players fine, but we want to be able to be a single-player game as well.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay. So basically he vanished for like 2 weeks while he was at uni to come up with the concept of AI.
It's just nuts, isn't it?
Listen to a great interview with him on one of the other retro podcasts I listened to. He just sounds like a really, really nice guy.
Yeah.
But his very, very early days were very much sort of like his parents were really, really into board gaming.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the beginning of it. So designing games, designing board games was where he sort of got his start. Picked up a Spectrum for 25 quid off of someone he knew.
He had a fucking ZX81 he started.
1K of memory.
1K of memory. You can't do anything with 1K. I'm sure he got a RAM pack. He must have done. You cannot do anything. He would have got that massive 4K RAM pack to help with making this. But yeah, he clearly very talented, and you could sort of argue that he's sort of very much stuck in his wheelhouse ever since. But when you're that good at something, why change? You don't ask Max Verstappen why he doesn't go and become a skier, do you?
Yeah,
not really.
You ride the wave of technological advancements, don't you? If you're good at one particular type of game, you make your first one, it's a big hit, loads of people like it, great. By the time that's come around to making your next game, computers have marched on by a hell of a lot. So you're like, well, I'll just kind of take the concept that I started with in that one and put in all that stuff that I wanted to do last time that I couldn't do because of the memory restrictions or art restrictions or whatever. And then eventually over time it's refined and expanded on and we get to where we are now.
Rebel Star 2, which is the one I played the most, I think that and Chaos. Obviously, with no idea they're written by the same person. Didn't even, cross my mind that was a thing that could be happening, but they were two of my favourite Spectrum games. But Rebel Star 2, which I played, I didn't play the first one very much. It made you believe that you could make video games because it's such a simple concept.
Yeah.
It appears to be, it's ostensibly a very simple concept. It's actually really fucking complex. When it looks on the surface like you're just moving bits around and you shoot each other, that can't be too hard. Yeah. Obviously, it's really fucking hard. But the hours I spent tapping in fucking basic games into my Spectrum that never worked anyway because you did a comma instead of a colon somewhere on line 762.
Yeah.
It's a tough time, but yeah, it was so brilliant, but also so simple. I got closer to winning a game of Rebel Star 2 the day before yesterday than I did in years of playing it as a kid.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about replaying 8-bit generation games with the ability to take save states and things like that.
Well, I think as well as that, they weren't made for kids so much, were they? A lot of those games, they're sort of like Rebel Star 2, they were really quite difficult and challenging and complex.
I think they were made for the people that were making them.
Yeah.
They basically said, well, what do I want to play? And that's what they made. And they put it out and it just so happened that people bought it and liked it.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of the people who buy them were kids.
Yeah, absolutely, because it was a new thing. And I just think it's there aren't a lot of 11-year-olds today that could get their head around that.
How does Rebel Star 2 actually play?
You land on an alien planet and you have to basically get to turn, it's either 15 or 25, it escapes me now. And you have to get to that turn and then your spaceship lands to pick you up and take you away.
Okay.
And in that time, you've basically got to score the most points, which is really, really hard. As you can imagine, just really, really tough. But brilliantly, completely unofficially an Aliens game as well, which I think is what we talked about when we were chatting about it before.
Yeah, you're saying about the names of the characters.
Yeah. My game the other day, I had one character who I was working my way around the back of the base to try and get to the spaceship to escape. It was Hudson from Aliens.
Well, I know. It was Hudson, not the same Hudson from Aliens.
Oh, obviously not, no. Clearly a completely different Hudson with his plasma rifle. And
non-copyright infringing Hudson.
Yeah. How on earth they got away with it? I don't know what year Rebel Star 2 came out. I think it might have been quite late. Yeah, I was about to say, I think it was 88, which is fairly late, really, isn't it? But, Rebel Star Raiders would have been before that and Rebel Star. But they were pretty much iterations of the same thing. Yeah. But yeah, Rebel Star 2 was fantastic, as I say. And there's a fantastic online emulator called Torinac, QAOP. You just put it's for our listeners, TORINAK. Just stick that into your browser of choice and it will take you to an online Spectrum emulator. It works really well and you can play Rebel Star and Rebel Star 2 on it and completely guilt-free because they're abandonware. Julian Gollop gave them up to the world for free. I came to UFO not a little bit circuitous. It's not circuitous because it it's kind of almost chronological order. It's always in but not quite, because I say starting with Rebel Star and Rebel Star 2, I didn't really play anything else. And I say there was this point at some point where someone showed me UFO, and I didn't really play it. And then the next game I played was, you'll love this, mate, because the next game I played was on the Game Boy Advance.
Oh, of course. Advance Wars? You just mentioned that a few minutes ago.
No, because it's a Julian Gollop. It's called Rebel Star Tactical
Command.
That's it. So Rebel Star Tactical Command obviously doesn't have the strategy bit, and it's just the turn-based. And it's very much, it's a little bit anime looking, and it's very much sort of halfway between the two. It's just kind of got nods to XCom, and but also it's got the Rebel Star name on it. And that's fantastic. I think Julian Gollop might have had something to do with a Splinter Cell spin-off game.
Ghost Recon.
So that's on the 3DS.
He worked for Ubisoft.
Yeah.
For about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, because he weirdly directed an Assassin's Creed, didn't he? He directed Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which is just bizarre.
Assassin's Creed 3.
Was it?
Yeah, on the Vita.
Just bizarre.
Yeah, it's a job, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You've got to pay the bills.
You're working for a company and they're making a game and you're a developer, programmer, producer, designer, whatever. You're going to be involved.
Absolutely.
Whether you want to be or not. Like I said, I never played the first one. I played Terror from the Deep a lot and then never bought another one. Apocalypse came out next. Didn't buy it for whatever reason. Interceptor came out as kind of a flight sim.
Yeah.
Space flight sim thing. Wasn't what I wanted, so I never played it. And then XCOM just kind of generally went away. So as far as I was concerned, Terror from the Deep was it until the mid-2000s when a series of games called UFO came out. So there's UFO, Aftermath, Aftershock, and Afterlight.
Yeah.
And they're very much a love letter to the XCOM games.
Oh, yeah.
They're nowhere near as polished as the more recent proper remakes, but they are good fun. They're very odd. The first one started out as a game called The Dreamland Chronicles Freedom Ridge, which was in development by Julian Gollop and Mythos Games when they went bust.
Yeah.
Then a Czech company called Alter Interactive bought the unfinished project from Virgin, who owned it, and started trying to finish it. But they ended up pretty much just making a new game from scratch, which is what became UFO Aftermath. And yeah, they made these 3 games that are quite odd, quite unique, but they're very, very similar. It's real-time flowing tactical, but you can pause at any time and issue instructions. I'd recommend them, definitely. I remember playing them when they came out because there hadn't been something like XCOM for a long time.
No, it did sort of go away, didn't it?
It kind of went out of people's mind because, like, well, yeah, we used to do turn-based stuff because it was limitations of technology at the time. Now we don't need to.
Yeah, I've just remembered you mentioned Nemesis. They just got Nemesis. Is that the one where it's 2-player and the moves go at the same time?
Yes. Turn-based isometric combat. Players issue orders to a squad of soldiers or aliens. Each turn, the player gives orders to their troops, previews probable effects of those orders, submits them to a server or through email. Oh, so it is a by email game. Oh,
so it is the email one. Okay, cool.
Yeah. There was an actual XCOM play by email game as well, though.
Yeah, that was one that Hasbro made, wasn't it? And apparently it wasn't that great. They just got the IP and made it, didn't they? I think they were trying to sort of drag it out as long as possible.
Have you played FTL?
No, I've been recommended it like so many times.
Play that. Definitely play that. That's good.
Fairly sure I own it on a couple of different things as well.
That's the game that the people who made Into the Breach made before Into the Breach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think when you look at anything to do with Into the Breach, it's from the people who bought you FTL. But it's brilliant. It's really, really good.
You've not played. I like that because that's a good segue back to turn-based strategy games because you've not played Into the Breach.
I haven't, and I know I should. It's one of those things. I've always looked at it and I thought, I loved FTL. I played that to death. And I know from talking to people that Into the Breach is a game I should play.
Yeah. I
just have never picked it up. I think I've even got it.
Well, I haven't played it as much as I should because I played it for a bit and loved it. And then kind of, I don't know, sometimes I do that. I'll try a game or I'll try a few games in quick succession and then keep playing one and then forget to go back to others that I liked. Because I really liked Into the Breach, but I've only played it very briefly.
Yeah.
It's brilliant and it looks amazing as well. It's a great looking game. I love the little diorama look to the things.
There's no sort of scenery really, is there?
It's very, very cool.
Yeah, I know it's a game I should play. Have you played Pit People?
Never even heard of Pit People.
Pit People is brilliant. It's great fun. Have you ever heard of a game called Battle Block Theatre?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. It's the people who made that. It's their next game. Battle Block Theatre has got the best voiceover in any video game ever made. The guy's voice is just a delight to listen to. The plot's ridiculous and it's funny. And it goes all over the place. And at the end of Battle Block Theatre, spoiler alert, they shoot up into space and kill a space bear. There's no explanation of why, it just happens. And then Pit People starts with this bear in space being killed and its husband going apeshit. But the whole thing's narrated by the bear and its hatred of the people that you're controlling.
Oh, wow.
It's brilliant. It's genuinely fantastic just to listen to the story elements of it. There's a bit, basically the character you play is a guy called Horatio. He's a blueberry farmer. And the bear will effectively narrate what he's doing and what he's going to do. Basically tells him what to do through narration.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, oh, yeah, Horatio was a blueberry farmer. I can't remember. It says something like, Horatio went to the next town. And the little character goes, he goes, oh, yes, you did. and you have to follow what he says after a point. But it's just brilliant. It's just so well written and well performed. I'd highly recommend it, even if you just watch a video of all the cutscenes. Have you played the modern remakes at all?
Yes, I did try them very briefly a long time ago. I think I struggled, and I don't know why, because they're easier than XCom. But I think I was probably, being PC games, I was probably trying to play on a controller on a PC rather than...
Funny you should say that. They play really well on controller. I remember when I bought the Steam controller, one of the big games that they touted to use it with was XCOM.
Oh, right. I guess it's old enough to work well on a Steam Deck as well, isn't it?
I'd have thought so, yeah.
But yes, I do need to go back, and I think having sort of rediscovered my love for the series with UFO, I think I will be going and having another look at it. But it's certainly, as I say, I think it's definitely old enough to run well on a Steam Deck, so that should help as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a great nod in, I'm pretty sure it's XCOM rather than XCOM 2. There's a point where you start to develop psionic abilities in your people, and the room that you create for the psionic training is the Gollop chamber.
Oh, cool.
As a nod to Julian Gollop, which I never knew about until you said his name when we were doing one of the first episodes.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, Julian Gollop, the guy who made XCOM. I was like, wait, Gollop? I've heard that before.
That's very cool. He loves it. He's apparently got over 200 hours on XCOM.
Yeah.
I heard an interview with him when he was talking about it. He's got issues with some of the AI apparently, but he loves what they're doing with it, which is great to hear, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm sure it still feels a little bit like his baby.
I don't know. I think I'd rather be in a position where, similar to him, where you've made the first game that then developed into a series and you've kind of let it go.
Yeah.
And you're happy to see it do well, but kind of also happy that you don't have to carry on making it.
Yeah.
People who get stuck into that cycle of constantly churning out sequels for something they don't really believe in anymore.
Yeah. I think from what I heard from when he was talking about, what's the new one called?
Phoenix Point.
He was talking about that because apparently that was an Epic Games Store exclusive.
Okay, that's why I don't have it on Steam then.
Well, it's out on Steam now, but apparently...
It is now, yeah.
When you look at the reviews, because it's clear that it came out on the Epic Games Store and that was a bit of a beta release.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's on Steam and it apparently is a lot more polished.
Yeah.
Works a lot better. All the kinks have been dying out, so it's like almost like the Epic Store took the brunt. And then it came out on Steam as a finished product, but it's just, he talks really passionately about it and about iterating and learning and developing it and making it better and better. But unfortunately, as he does that, he also scares me off it because it sounds really, really fucking complicated. So I'm a bit like, oh, I'd love to, mate, but no, but not for me. Not for me.
The mod games are very, very good. Tonally, the story of them, the plot, the bridge between 1 and 2 actually is very, very interesting because the second game starts off basically we lost.
Yes.
You get to the end of the first game and you defeat the aliens, whatever. There's a lot of psionic stuff going on. And the second one starts and they've taken over the world. It's like V. It's really, really cool. You're the resistance. There's always like propaganda cutscenes and things from the aliens' point of view. They've got, I can't remember what they call him. They've got like a spokesman that keeps coming on TV. He's effectively like a Big Brother kind of character.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. It's really, really good. You get painted as terrorists.
Yeah.
You're freedom fighters for the right people and terrorists for the wrong people, like any other freedom fighter.
Exactly, yeah.
But yes, it's really, really good. And they're full of little moments. Like there's a moment when you first clap eyes on a group, because it's always groups of enemies in these ones. It'll be like 2 or 3 of a specific type of alien. And there'll be this like very quick close-up moment on those, and they'll like fly around and look around or do something, and then it cuts back to you. But they'll get like a sort of a reaction moment.
Right.
So they'll all sort of run off and hide a little bit. Not always, very intelligently, but they'll make an effort to not just be stood out in the open.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to cope with that. And then there's like, you'll get various abilities like stealth, so you don't trigger that moment.
Yeah, right, cool.
So you basically end up with like a team of snipers and one poor hapless bastard who creeps through the level. There's an ability you can get for the snipers, which I think it's squad sight. As long as there's line of sight between your sniper and your target, as long as somebody in the squad is within visual range, you can take the shot.
Oh, cool.
And you develop things like jetpacks, so you can like fly high up above a level, snipe the whole field of play from one point. So you get this poor bastard who has to go out and find all the aliens for you, for your sniper to take out. It's brilliant.
That does sound fun.
But the weapons and the abilities that they've got are really, really interesting. There's a lot of things like destroying cover. There's always been a big part of it.
Yeah.
If you can see there's an alien hiding behind something that you know is destructible, chuck a grenade, blow it up, you've then got a clear shot. That's always been a part of XCom.
Yeah.
But it's even more so in the recent ones, because you've got the concept of half cover and full cover. And if you can take away that cover, they're basically dead. But the second game really went to town with hand-to-hand combat.
Oh, really?
There's a unit class, which I think are called Rangers, and they have swords and katanas and shit like that. You're like, oh, yes, I'm having that. Then you get to a point where they get promoted, they level up. It's like, doesn't trigger stealth anymore. You're like, oh, I'm a fucking ninja. With this one guy, I can run around the whole thing and kill everybody.
That's cool.
It puts term restrictions on some of the things as well. It's very specific missions, whereas a lot of the old XCOM games were just kill everything.
Yeah.
Or destroy something. In this, it would be like specifically capture one to retrieve an item of equipment or get a specific autopsy, which has always been there. There's always been an element of that, but that's more just a sort of to further your own research. It's never really been a plot point. Yeah, the recent games did that really, really well. So you'd have things like you've got to abduct somebody or protect somebody as well, which is bastard hard.
I bet.
That's a nightmare. Basically, you'll go into a civilian attacked area and you have to defend the people that are there. And you think, fuck them. Genuinely don't care if you die.
There's a couple sort of modern turn-based games that I have just remembered in quick succession in my brain. And the first one is, I think we may have mentioned it before, SteamWorld Heist.
No, but I know of it.
Heard of it? Sequel's just been recently announced and is well into development. And it's fantastic. Yeah. It's a side-on turn-based tactics game. So it's sort of levels that are a bit like a platform. You go up ladders and along stuff and sort of have to that. It's absolutely brilliant. Really, really great looking world. Yeah. And it's, you aim your own shot. So rather than, the whole random number generators and all that sort of stuff, when you aim shots and you can ricochet off things and do all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's a very, very good game. I mean, it's better than that. It's a fantastic game. Yeah. Highly, highly recommended.
There's a series of them, isn't there? There's SteamWorld Dig.
Yes.
But and a couple of other games.
Different genres.
I don't know if it's SteamWorld Heist. Is the music done by a band called Steam Powered Giraffe?
I don't know. Shall we Google it?
Because they're a band I've seen live at a steampunk event, and they are brilliant, really, really good fun. I'm pretty sure they did the music for at least one of those games.
Yeah, So SteamWorld as a series is a very loose series. There's different genres. SteamWorld.
Yeah, it's like an overarching setting.
Yes, exactly. It's a world, and I think there's SteamWorld Dig and SteamWorld Dig 2 are kind of a bit platformy, bit not sort of direct. You have to dig, and there's resources and things like that. And then Heist is this side-on turn-based thing, and it genuinely absolutely brilliant, procedurally generated levels, but well constrained so they don't ever get stupid.
Yeah.
But just fantastic, and just a really original new take on turn-based games. Considering how long turn-based games have been around, basically the dawn of time.
Yep.
Yeah, to come up with something new is absolutely brilliant.
Just thinking about it, actually, have you played Darkest Dungeon?
No.
Because now I think about it, that's kind of a similar experience to XCom. You have a group of 4 people going into a set of dungeons and doing specific quests and things, but you're almost guaranteed to lose them. But they develop various problems, like mental illnesses, diseases.
Oh, okay.
Aversion to dark, aversion to light.
Ah, that's cool.
It's sort of a roguelike, constant rinse, repeat, do the same mission over and over kind of thing.
Yeah.
With randomized elements. And now I think about it, the experience of that is very much like XCOM. Painful. Very painful. There's a great line in it where it's confidence is the first step on the road to disappointment.
Wow.
It's very down and very depressing, but the overall tone and ambience of it is fantastic. It's brilliant.
I worry that's because did you say Rogue Legacy?
Mm-hmm.
I hated Rogue Legacy.
Did you?
And it sounds like a similar kind of idea.
It's not. No, not really.
Okay.
It's turn-based combat.
Okay.
And you can use various abilities like sort of stun and shuffling the positions of people around changes what they can and can't do.
Okay. And yes, Steam Powered Giraffe did the music for Steam World Heist.
Yeah.
Steam Powered Giraffe is an American musical project formed in San Diego in 2008, self-described as a musical act that combines robot pantomime, puppetry, ballet, comedy, projections, and music.
Yep. Great fun.
Wow. That's unique.
Go on YouTube and look up their video for a song called Captain Albert Alexander.
Okay.
Just listen to that one. Just watch that one video. It's like 9 minutes long or something. That will tell you everything you need to know about them.
Okay. I genuinely will, but not now.
Yeah.
I remember 2 upcoming turn-based games, and that's what I wanted to talk about, was this, with SteamWorld Heist 2 coming up, and probably my most anticipated game for some time. I don't get excited about new games very often anymore.
No.
Because I'm a bit of a
curmudgeonly
old fucker. But I just think all of the biggest hyped games tend to be games that I'm not that bothered by. So you don't really get the opportunity to get excited. I've just thought of some more turn-based games, actually.
There are a lot out there.
But the one that I was thinking about, because years ago now, I think it was nearly 3 years ago now, Metal Slug Tactics got announced. So looked stunning, isometric, turn-based Metal Slug characters. Looked absolutely glorious. And it has disappeared off the face of the earth. There has not been mention of it for nearly, I think, 6 months now, possibly longer. And I'm gutted about that. This is why I don't get excited about games anymore, because they just disappear off the face of the fucking earth. It looks great, and it looked like when the trailer came out and they showed it at whatever game thing it was, I think it was like one of the Nintendo Directs. It didn't look like it was a long way off being finished. It didn't look like it was, one of these things that's going to be announced and then disappear for 4 years and then reappear again. But yeah, it's just disappeared, and it looked brilliant. Gutted about that.
On the official website, release date is still to be announced.
Yeah, it's not a series. I'm like massively. I know I've played it and loved it, but it's not. I've
played them very fleetingly.
Yeah,
I think I played 1 and possibly 2 through to the finish, with obviously infinite credits. I think we mentioned this on a previous thing. You just wouldn't pump the amount of money into that in an arcade that I have had to pump into that to finish the fucking thing.
No. But yes, I've played them a lot on the Neo Geo Pocket Color. I think probably mostly. And yeah, we did talk about this before, because I mentioned the Wii version that I got. I played a little bit on that, and obviously a little bit on MAME over the years as well, but not they're so hard that it's even quite painful to play them with infinite credits, isn't it? Because you have to fucking press.
You've still got to do the things.
Yeah, they're very hard, but they're such great looking games. So they look.
Oh, I love them. They're so stylistically different to everything else out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they've never changed. They've always kept that sort of look.
Absolutely.
You can recognise a Metal Slug game anywhere.
Yeah.
There are a lot of very similar games that do very, very good things. I've got a couple that really, really sort of stick into mind. One of the best ones I've played recently is a game called Phantom Doctrine.
Right.
It's set during the Cold War. So you play like a small spy team. It's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Really, really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Players either like Americans or Russians. And then your missions and storyline go wherever it goes from there. But you can do... There's ridiculous options in the character creation screen. So I basically tried to make Ilya Kuryakin from The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but then gave him an eye patch for no reason. So he walks around on these levels. There's always like really serious looking sort of Soviet generals and civilians. And then there's just this ridiculous blonde guy with an eye patch walking around. It's fantastic. It's a really, really good game. So yeah, I'd recommend that. But there's another series which I think is on about its fourth, maybe fifth game called Jagged Alliance.
I know Jagged Alliance.
They're pretty good.
I struggled with them, and there's a bit too much going on for me in Jagged Alliance. Mm-hmm. There's a level of involvement that I didn't really enjoy. It's just
okay.
I did a blog where I played every game on the Nintendo DSiWare.
Oh, okay.
So that was the download game system for the DSi, very, very small file size. And I played every single one of them and did a bit of a review, and you can find that online if you like. So then my blog at the time during COVID was called Gaming the Pandemic. And I think the DSiWare thing was a bit of a spin-off of that. I could be wrong, but that's how to find my blog, Gaming the Pandemic. But yes, there was into this tiny, tiny little file size. They did the release of Jagged Alliance, and it was awful. Not because Jagged Alliance is bad, but because that shouldn't have been something that they ever tried to do. There's not enough capability in that system to run that game properly. So there was a little spell of turn-based stuff coming out not so long ago. I say not so long ago. It's probably a decade or more ago now. But there was just a little spurt. There was. Did you ever play Invisible Ink?
I've heard of it.
Of course, yeah. I'll give you a second to Google that. It's superb. It's superb, mate. I highly recommend you play it. It's brilliant. Genuinely, it's got...
I love the art style.
Yeah, bags of style all the way through it. The voice acting's great. The delivery's great. The gameplay, it's just genuinely, genuinely great. And it's very clearly... It owes a lot to UFO and XCom. It's definitely something that I came crashing back to me. I think it's pronounced Clay, the developer, Klei.
Yes, I love Clay. They've made some fantastic games. Have you played Oxygen Not Included?
I played it briefly.
That's good fun.
Yes. I don't think I did very well at it, so I didn't play it for very long.
No, it's bastard hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, what have they got? The Shank games were great. The second one was a bit janky, but the Shank, they're like side-scrolling brawlers, very, very classy, and Mark of the Ninja as well. Great from that stuff. Grifflands is a turn-based thing, actually. That kind of...
Yeah, deck builder thing, isn't it?
That's it, deck builder, not a card base. That was fantastic. I've got that on my Switch.
Yeah, that's really good.
But it seemed to die. It kind of didn't make any noise, did it, when it came out? There's nobody really talked about it, which is a bit of a shame.
Well, there's Slade Aspire, which is very, very similar, which I think got all of the attention.
Just having a look at, they've got a new game, says Rotwood. Let's see what that's about.
Okay.
2.5D beat 'em up. Coming in April 2024. Oh, the game was released through Steam's Early Access program in April 2024.
Okay.
I don't really get on with Early Access.
No, I've started to come away from it a lot. I
find that I get bored of the game before before I get to play it as it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And I've never been particularly comfortable with the idea of Early Access for that reason, and for the fact that I don't like the idea of the internet shaping games to what they want.
Yeah. It's game development by committee, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Which will mean
it's focus groups. It's effectively a focus group making a game.
Yes, and you're always going to end up much like in the previous episode when I talked about Portal 2 and how that was had all its edges smoothed off to make it the easiest possible experience for the largest amount of people. That's what you end up with if you focus group everything. Great things aren't made by that approach. The concept of UFO that Microprose wanted to bring to it, that whole idea, was inspired by UFO, the TV series.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, so they basically took the concept, what was it called? Shadow, SHADO.
Yeah.
For UFO, and that organisation tracking aliens and all that came from UFO. That's where the name UFO comes from. And
of course.
What's it called, the subtitle? Enemy Unknown, or is that the new one?
Enemy Unknown is the original.
Yeah, so that's why that something. That's to once it's had its inspiration, they then needed to distance it from it, so they added Enemy Unknown to it.
Was that a Jerry Anderson?
It was a Jerry Anderson, but it didn't.
But it didn't have puppets.
No, it was.
Yeah, it's quite serious, wasn't it?
It was fairly serious, yeah, as much as in
comparison to like fucking Thunderbirds or Stingray.
Yes, although Captain Scarlet was very serious. For a puppet.
Yeah,
so.
Not really a kid's show.
No, and brilliant. I loved it. And I loved it coming back to it as an adult more than as a kid.
Yeah.
Because, there was just something...
Well, you get it now, don't you?
Yeah, because it's the first TV show I remember where they're kind of like almost like an off-duty and on-duty version. They called each other by their first name. Like when they were behind the scenes and the things, they called him Adam and all that. And as a kid, you didn't get that. You go, that's Captain Scarlet. Why are you calling him Adam? What's wrong with you? But just
addressed him by his title, damn it. You had a very strange childhood, didn't you? Weird thing to be offended by when you're 6.
I haven't seen UFO since seeing bits and pieces of it. Like in the 90s, there were lots of these old shows repeated on like BBC Two and Channel 4, weren't there?
Yeah. It was repeated in the late 90s, but I'd never seen it as a kid, so never really bothered with it.
Big fan of Jerry Anderson stuff. When I was a kid, you grew up with Thunderbirds and being, cool spaceships and all that sort of thing. And then Stingray sort of emerged from somewhere. And Stingray was shit. It was really, really shit. Nothing ever happened. But it also has the best theme music of any TV show ever. Honestly, that intro sequence is genius. It's so exciting. Yeah. And then the TV show starts and there's a fucking mermaid swimming around and nothing happening. Not what I wanted.
To be fair, though, it does have one of the best named characters ever. Troy Tempest.
Troy Tempest. That is cool, man. So let's talk about cocktails.
Okay.
As is traditional, you can go first.
Well, in keeping with the overall experience of the UFO/XCom series, my choice is a Difford's cocktail called the Suffering Bastard. Because that perfectly describes how I feel when playing XCom. I feel so sorry for the people that I know are going to die on my mission. Because short of reloading, trying the level again, someone's going to die. Every time. Not so much the case in the recent remakes, but certainly the original Terror from the Deep, someone died every time. So yeah, Suffering Bastard wraps that up quite nicely in a perfect pun. It sounds quite nice. 30 mils each of cognac and gin, 20 mil of lime cordial, 10 mil of lime juice, dash of Angostura bitters, and 100 millilitres of ginger beer.
Ooh.
Served in a tiki mug.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
For some unknown reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's probably invented in a tiki bar.
Yes, probably.
Oh, hang on. Here we go. Created in 1942 by Joe Shalom at the Shepherd's Hotel, Cairo, Egypt.
Oh.
I mean, that sounds quite nice.
It sounds lovely. That sounds right up my street, that one. I'm not sure I've got any lime cordial, but I've got everything else on that list. I could absolutely give that a shot. That sounds really nice. I love ginger beer and I love lime. I love citrusy things.
I'm not overly a fan of ginger beer on its own.
Right.
mixed in with something to add a bit of flavour or a bit of, something to something else, then yeah, fine with it. But ginger beer on its own I wouldn't drink, but mixed in with something like that sounds quite nice. I'll give that a go.
No, that's a good one. I love it because it is. You're right, mate. It is a game that basically people constantly die.
I was desperately looking for a cocktail called Lone Survivor and couldn't find one.
There was one survivor. He was miraculously unharmed.
Didn't even get his boots dirty.
That's because they hid him at the back of the fucking spaceship, so you can do one and save your gear. Just discovered the art on UFO of leaving somebody in the spaceship so you can just do a bunk with all your equipment as soon as it goes to shit.
At least you don't lose the ship.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly.
The ship is the expensive thing and takes a month to turn up when you order a new one.
So that is it. As soon as that guy is at the back of that.
Generally speaking, I never used to take everybody on the mission anyway, just because it took so bloody long. That's one of the things that the new remakes do very well. Is maximum team size of 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than like 14 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was massive. Again, it's something that I've learned.
There was reasoning behind that though. Terror from the Deep did it. I don't know if the original does it. It probably does, but you get like basically like big robots, like mechs.
Oh no, that's
that
not
take
in
up
UFO.
4 slots.
Oh, okay.
In the thing. Yeah, they're just essential. Because they're quite well armoured. They can trigger all of the aliens shooting at them, so you can vaguely tell where they are.
Yeah.
And they're a bit more disposable than some of you guys by that point.
Unless that's something that I've not reached yet. I've not seen that. I've not heard it mentioned in UFO either, so I think that must be new.
Might be there, might not. I'm not sure.
But no, sounds cool.
So what did you go for eventually?
Eventually, yeah. No, I really struggled today. And the reason I really struggled is because so many sort of alien named and themed cocktails are just a bit fucking naff. They're just a bit 80s and, alien autopsy and alien brain and all this just gimmicky cocktails. And that's not really my vibe. So I've ended up going for something entirely based on the name and the name alone.
That's my job.
I know, and I apologise. I apologise to our esteemed subscribers. Thank you all for subscribing. Hit that like button. Leave a comment.
Oh, Tone.
But yeah, I found a cocktail called the Genesis. And the reason I picked that is not because I'm a big Phil Collins fan. As you will have noticed, I keep on harping back to Rebel Star and Laser Squad and even further back than that to Chaos and what is to me the genesis of these games. This is where it came from, and it is where UFO began with Julian Gollop as a teenager making these games on his own with his brother as well. Actually, his brother used to help him out
later on.
Yeah, and so,
it goes back to the whole bedroom coding thing of the UK 80s computer scene. Very much a DIY thing.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I get a little bit annoyed by, and I know people online. Rack, if you're listening, cheers mate for listening, is one of them who just gets really annoyed when Americans go on about the gaming crash of the 80s.
Yeah, it didn't
happen. Brilliant time gaming in the 80s in the UK. It's absolutely you're picking up games for £3. It was fantastic. It was
good games as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Rebel Star 2 was a budget game, £3. Julian Gollop got paid $1,000 to make it.
Yeah,
£1,000 to make a game that eventually led to XCom happening. It was just incredible. But he was a kid, so I'm sure he thought that was loads of money.
It would have been.
Well, it would have been about £2,000.
Mid-80s.
Yeah, about £2,000. But anyway, that's by the by. But yeah, so that's, to me, I can't separate those games and those early years, because that's when I found it. I was unwittingly on the XCOM train before XCOM even existed. So it feels, and I can't think of many things that I like that for me. So yeah, the name Genesis appealed to me, that, and cocktail that is gold rum 40 mils, apricot brandy 10 mils, 20 mil lime juice. Apricot brandy is yummy. In anything.
Yeah, that sounds really nice.
And it's got a special ingredient, which is allspice and lemongrass syrup. But that's literally boiling some allspice and a stick of lemongrass in water and sugar. It's not a difficult thing to come up with. Those are ingredients that you can pick up in your Sainsbury's local. Yeah, I can't pretend I've tried it because I did struggle today, but it sounds bloody lovely, doesn't it? But it's just a shaker, but and served with a piece of lemongrass, I guess in it, or you could do something artsy-fartsy with it if you wanted. But I think that's quite important because the smell of lemongrass is incredible. I love the smell of lemongrass. And so stuck in a drink, it's just definitely something. I do have, I'd say, most of those things. So I will be trying that.
I'd be interested to try that with and without the allspice.
Yes.
Because I think that'd be an interesting comparison.
Our friend Mr. Difford breaks it 4.5 out of 5. So it is an award-winning cocktail by Pavel Radosinski.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah. So yeah, a spiced apricot daiquiri. Lemongrass is a standout ingredient that makes this cocktail interesting. Is the review, and I do apologise for choosing a cocktail that I haven't actually drunk myself. I don't like to do that. This might be the first time I've done that, to be honest with you. But as I say, if it wasn't for all the terrible Halloween-themed alien cocktails in the world, I wouldn't have had to do it. So it's not my fault. Don't shoot the messenger. If at some point in the future I find something better, I will mention it and try it as well. But yeah, I think that sounds like a lovely drink. And that will do us for today's episode on XCom or UFO. Next time around, we're going to be talking about NBA Jam. I hope you can join us. Cheers. Babylon 5 is a big pile of shit.
Get out.